Hello and welcome to Boatrek Live. Special guest today is Starfleet Boy, and we're going to be watching the second pilot for the original series Star Trek, Where No Man Has Gone Before. And you can watch along with us. We're going to tell you when we're going to start. We're going to cue it up together, and we're going to do commentary along the way. So how are you doing today, Starfleet Boy?
I'm doing really good. I'm really excited to be doing this because this is like homework, and it's more fun to do homework with a friend. So I appreciate you and your time, and also the audience that may or may not be here. We did this already on Starfleet Boy After Dark for the Cage, and you joined in on that, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have a surprise guest on this one. I don't know. I put a few feelers out there.
All right. Do you want to get started right away?
Yeah. So audience, if you are watching right now, at any point in time, not just live, it's time to queue up your copy of Where No Man Has Gone Before, which is however you're watching it, whether it's on Netflix or Hulu or whatever. I don't know. It's on a lot of things, right?
And it is season 1, episode 4, although technically it's the second pilot.
Right.
And apparently this takes place in 2265, which is a year before the Man Trap. So, which is in 66.
Oh, did you get that from Captain Kirk's gravestone?
Oh, I didn't even notice the gravestone. I watched it earlier. I noticed that there was a gravestone.
Oh, okay. I've never actually looked at it. I was hoping today we could look if we both concentrate, we can probably see the date because it's all blurry every time I look at it. I'm sure there's a screen cap somewhere out there. But yeah, queue up all your media. And if anyone's in the audience, periodically we will just throw out a number of relatively where we are on the viewing, which I think you could do easier. You're going to be the counter person because when you tap your screen,
counter person because I'm watching it on my phone. It always shows me just how long it is. It doesn't. You actually have to click on the line to see it, and you move around, then you skip ahead or behind or. Yeah.
I see. Okay, I'll be the guy that does all that stuff. All right, so should we do it on the 5? Okay, go ahead.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start. Space.
The stars. Space. Yeah. There's
Captain
Enterprise.
Started.
Oh, where'd you go? I've been left on my own. We're picking up a recorded distress signal. You okay?
You didn't stop it, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay, I left it going. Yeah, I accidentally kicked myself out.
Look, that's the first time we see Captain Kirk.
Yep.
He's William Shatner is incredibly handsome in this episode.
Well, he's a bit younger than he's aged kind of poorly in his younger days, but not in his later days.
You can tell. I didn't do any research, but you could tell the production was filmed before the Man Trap because of what they're wearing, and Spock looks different and stuff like that. Yeah. I feel like no.
Well, oh wait, how do I switch back to you? There you go. I should mute when I cough.
There's our gold shirt. There's no red shirts yet. There's Kelso.
Yeah, this guy you never see again, right?
Right. A bunch of people on Twitter were saying they wished more from his character. I agree. Well, a bunch of people meaning one, but that I saw today.
Look how skinny Scotty is. Scotty's really skinny in this episode.
Doesn't that look a little like the thing they beamed aboard on TNG on some episode? Was it the one?
Troy's little message with the face on it?
No, more like the Royale, that episode, the casino.
Oh, the Royale, yeah.
But I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining that. I do that a lot. Uh-oh, it's beeping. It's green. In the 60s, you knew that it was bad. To me, this feels so different already from the cage.
Yeah, it does.
Like,
It has a completely
only
different
mainly
feel.
because it's familiar. Also, we get in the cage, you don't get the Space the Final Frontier thing. Space the Final Frontier.
These are the voyages of the Starship
The
Enterprise.
Starship Boatrek. It's 5-year mission to explore Star Trek: The Original Series with Starfleet Boy to seek out new life and new civilizations and new YouTubers and subscribers to boldly go where no channels have gone before.
I think you're slightly behind me there.
Oh, I think it's just it's always relative.
Sorry.
It depends on the
It's William Shatner now. Now it's
same.
It's
Starring William Shatner, also starring Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock. I think they need to remaster the remaster. Some of these shots are not as good as I remembered them.
You don't really see those overhead shots a lot in the show.
No. There's Gary Mitchell. I I think of Gary Mitchell and James Kirk as like Bucky and Steve Rogers. It's like Captain America and Bucky right here. They could have been William Shatner could have played Captain America back in or Captain Canada. Is there such a thing as Captain Canada?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, nice.
Created by a Newfoundlander, no less.
This is still the bridge, not in its final form, I guess, or like I guess they evolved it all the time, but it looks a lot like what we know and love. The added color.
Yeah, these uniforms aren't as great as the rest.
Oh yeah, it's the final ones with the black collar.
And we get a different doctor in this too. The one before McCoy.
Right. I like that echo.
Yeah, they did that in Nemesis too. They only do it in this and Nemesis, I believe.
Oh wow, really? I feel like Captain Kirk does this a lot.
Yeah, but you don't hear that echo, right? It's always just
right.
like
you're right. That's true.
And in reality, you probably wouldn't anyway.
But you might if the sound's bouncing off the hull and it comes back to the bridge as like a reverb. That might be a cool thing because all speakers are on at the same time. He did an all ship message. Oh, maybe I'm thinking too much like a submarine. Aldebaran whiskey.
Getting something from the recorder now. Leonard Nimoy is really he's still in that cage kind of mindset a bit, where he's like
shouty Spock, right?
Shouty Spock.
Oh, this is great.
So there's a bit more casualness on the bridge, like a bit more fooling around in this episode, right?
Oh, for sure. It's not as like it's Scotty. James Doohan's amazing.
And Sulu's a science officer.
Yeah.
No, is he a medical officer or something? I don't know.
So immediately the thing I noticed, just to say it, is that there's a lot more, like, in general, just like different types of humans already on the bridge, which I noticed it was very homogenous in the cage.
How do I only show
like people? Oh, you have to click on the little picture on my picture.
Really?
Yeah. The little square. Oh, maybe you can't do that on yours.
That's strange.
If you hover over my...
Oh, yes, I know how to do it. Hold on now.
She's talking about ESP here, which is cool.
There you go.
There we go. Whoa.
Oh, yeah, the ESPN. Yeah, when you have ESPN, you know a lot about sports. Okay, I'll stop messing around with this now. Sorry.
No, you're good. I like it.
I like how he says the tapes are burnt out. I like the tapes are burned.
There's a lot of things that they didn't predict, obviously, so that like it becomes really dated, like tapes and like
It could come back around, and that could become the slang for like a quantum digital files and stuff. The tapes, right?
It's true. Oh, I like that.
A little bit retro.
It is a little retro. Just like this. Maybe the style in general went retro, and that's why the Enterprise looks the way. They're like, we got to make everything look like it's from the 60s.
I gotta say, this looks really good for its time.
Oh, yeah, no. And the transfer that we're watching, at least on Netflix, is really crisp. It's very nice. Yeah. I'm like transfixed by it. I got to keep watching it.
So the whole premise of this is they found a distress signal
Except
from
that seam or crack on the ceiling in that shot. Wait, sorry, but go on.
Oh yeah, they have a distress signal from like slightly outside the galaxy. So I guess they're going to the barrier. So this is kind of similar to like when the Great Barrier in the center of the galaxy in, I believe, Star Trek
5. In fact, there's a lot of similarities to Star Trek 5, just the godlike, achieving godlike status, like going to see like, you know, there. I feel like there's a lot of connections. I wonder if William Shatner did that on purpose. Did he write Star Trek 5?
He had some hand in it, but he did direct it, yeah.
Yeah, he did direct it.
Censors.
Censors say that.
I must shout out my lines.
Everyone else is talking like in regular voice, and Spock is the only one shouting. Oh, this is like interesting that he's giving her comfort. I like that.
That's a good little CG update of the ship going into the.
Yeah. I feel like though that like you could easily surpass the level of detail today in a home computer situation. So maybe it deserves like a little bit better. Are you hearing the episode? Should I lower the volume on it a little bit?
I can't hear it from your end. I have headphones.
Okay. Gravitation on automatic. I love that. Like it's manual otherwise.
Everything's. This is like I can understand why they kind of looked at this pilot and said, okay, there's action and explosions and space adventure, and it's got a little more punch. There's melodrama. There's romance. There's a villain. Like there's an actual like intimidating real villain.
No, it's true. And he's a surprise villain. He comes from the crew. You get to you fall in love with Gary Mitchell, and then he becomes like the antagonist.
I love the cage. This is different and special in its own right.
Yeah. Look at all the shaking. All the tropes are born right here. Like everything.
Like this has a little bit more production value than a lot of other episodes.
Yeah, it's true. Man, the Enterprise really took a beating. The Enterprise really took a beating. Yeah, crazy. Now I can only hear Leonard Nimoy yelling. That's so funny. I wonder if I yell a lot on Starfleet Boy. I think I do. I'm like that. I like here you hear all the departments chiming in over the loudspeaker or whatever, the full ship comms.
Yeah. That's a nice little touch.
You hear it like all the reports, which is very cool.
They really do a lot of effort into this. Like there's a lot of little details you can pick up on like every time you watch it. Ooh, silver contacts. You know how painful
Look at this.
You know how painful they were to wear back then? They were actually hard contacts.
Have you ever worn different eye-changing That's a nice shot.
Yes, I have.
That's cool.
In that Much Music video, I have like a white one in. Remember you were talking about, you saw me with.
Yeah. The Enterprise is like the same as that, like I imagine the catastrophe that happened to the ship systems is like the same that happened to the Enterprise at the beginning of Star Trek Discovery Season 2.
So technically, are they on the like outer edge of the galaxy now?
Mm-hmm. Which technically is really hard to do. They couldn't from wherever they were. They got there in like an hour. So like warp is different back then. The universe, also the galaxy, was probably smaller in their minds back then too. I don't think we realized how big the galaxy was. Just imagine that in 50 years we really like
Yeah,
advanced in science a lot.
earlier they say, yeah, we're leaving the galaxy very casually.
Yeah. And then later it becomes like really difficult as science kind of informs Star Trek a little bit more. I forgot the character's name. Her name. What's her name? Dr. Marcus is what I want to say.
No,
Here, I'll pull it
I
up.
want to say Dr. Linkus, but I could be totally, absolutely wrong about that. Her name is Doctor.
She is
Look at my silver eye.
oh, Dr. Alden. No, not Dr. Alden, sorry. Here she is. Is it Dr. Piper?
Dr. Piper, yes, that's Dr.
No,
Piper.
that's the older guy.
Oh no, yeah, the guy is Dr. Piper, and she is
Oh, Dr. Denner. Sally Kellerman, duh. She's Dr. Elizabeth Denner.
Elizabeth Denner. Yeah, yeah. Hello, Jim. I've godlike powers and yellow teeth. How do you like me now?
She was Nova, that's slang.
He's got Trip vibes, like Enterprise Trip.
Yeah, I think so. I just look at him and I can't stop seeing the actor who plays Bucky. I
Augie?
don't know why. Bucky from
Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan, yeah. Like if Star Trek film Kelvin did this story, they could totally do Sebastian Stan as this character, working opposite Chris Pine at work.
Yeah.
In his class, you either think or sink. So he was teaching at the academy, which is cool.
I don't think this guy is a particularly great actor, and I think maybe he can't see through those things, so that maybe hinders his abilities somehow. But I think the dialogue that's written for him is quite good. And William Shatner's a little bit better than normal here. Especially in the end. There's an end part where he has that speech, and it's like really, it's one of his best actually.
I think if you watch these, with me every week, you're gonna find that William Shatner is actually great. I'm a huge fan of his performance, like his performance style and everything. And I like obviously I discovered him, not obviously, but I discovered him because of Star Trek. But I've seen a lot of William Shatner, and he does have different ways of performing. Kirk is definitely a character he develops, like, and movie Kirk is like so great. Like once he gets to the films, he's like nailed it as far as I think anyone can say his performances are great. But I like over the top type performances. I like Jack Nicholson a lot, and he kind of does this kind of thing too.
Yeah, I never look at William Shatner's acting in a way and say like it sucks. But you can certainly see how different actors would probably take a different approach. He's very much his own thing, and his expressions and his very
look at everything's type
gyrations when he's getting like later in the episode when he's controlling him.
That's a unique thing,
so
and I like. You know what's funny is like I definitely can't. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say I love that from the beginning. Like I definitely used to make fun of William Shatner's performance as Kirk, just like everyone does. Like Ace Ventura, like in Ace Ventura, like Jim Carrey was famous for doing it, and a lot of other comedians. But on a serious level, like I think that I love it that he does that because it's so weird and so different from any other. It makes Kirk like truly unique in all of like the characters, like in his way of being. And it reminds me of Cisco, how like Avery Brooks has a certain way of talking, like he's just like kind of a similar kind of person. I think Patrick Stewart plays Jean-Luc the most straight, kind of like the most like normal, if you will. Janeway also has a few quirks, but I think the most quirky captains are definitely like Captain Kirk and Captain Sisko in terms of the performance.
Kirk has a way of talking that, everybody has that kind of way of making fun of him. And Avery Brooks is like, he gets really intense, but in like
He also has like
in
a
a,
sing. I
in a
love
way
doing impressions. It's like, I wish I talked like that.
yeah, okay. Avery Brooks gets really okay. I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah,
Exuberant and intense. I think you were right. The actor who plays Gary Mitchell, his name is Gary Lockwood, and he's a very famous actor, I think. Let me look him up real quick. Oh yeah, duh. He's he's in 2001, A Space Odyssey. He plays Dr. Bowman. Have you seen that, PJ?
yes, I have.
Okay. I figured. Hey, watch this, Doc. And then he just
I'm
plays.
sorry, I can't do that, Dave.
Very good. Oh my gosh.
Stop using your ESPN, man. You were dead for. I love the way people talk back then. You were dead for 22 seconds. Now you're back to life. I can't believe my eyes. Don't you know?
It's not quite that bad, but you're right. There's a little.
It's that
There's a little bit of
transatlantic,
something.
continental, or whatever they call it, transatlantic accent.
Isn't it crazy that when these guys were doing this stuff, they were like it was really science fiction to them. Like they didn't have a lot of the technology that you see in Star Trek, like sick bays. Now we have beds that have sensors that like do like in some of the more modern hospitals, you have very similar kind of vitals and things like that. It's like it's pretty neat how much Star Trek has influenced like what how we are today.
This soap opera like love relationship, I understand, had to be set up, but this is probably the most boring scene in the whole episode.
Really?
I
Yeah.
find this drags for so long.
I like the music though. That
And this is where they go a bit too far with him and like his pretentiousness and
I do like how he's like touching
you're,
his lips and it's very sensual. I think like there's a degree maybe they were like catering they were like they're always trying to present these like leading men in TV and stuff like that, and I think he was probably meant to appeal to the type of to the
there's a
people
lot of
out there who really like the bad boy.
there's a lot of grabbing of women in in the original series.
True.
Have you noticed that?
Do you think that's a
Come
Gary
here,
Mitchell
woman.
thing, or do you think that's a Gary Mitchell thing, or do you think that's a society thing? I think it's Gary Mitchell. It's a Gary Mitchell thing. We're gonna say he's a creep.
How many times has Kirk grabbed a woman's arms and shook her?
We should start a count. We should start an official count since we're starting in the beginning.
It's okay, Lee. Come on in. I won't hurt you. I'll just rip you apart like that guy in Akira.
Oh, he is an Akira.
No, no, no. I was just saying
No,
that
but this actor, I think he's an Akira. Not Gary Kelso.
that's a
He
Japanese
played the
anime.
voice. Yeah, but I mean when it got it was a big deal when Akira got translated or dubbed, I should say.
Oh, he
And
did the
there's like a lot of
voice.
famous actors. Yeah, and he did the voice for
Whoa,
some
yeah.
a character, like not like a main character.
Also, the doctor in this doctor, what'd you say his name was? Damn it.
Oh, hold on. Piper.
Yeah, Dr. Piper. He was in a show I really like called The Rifleman. He played the sheriff,
Oh, nice.
starring Chuck Connors. The Rifleman. That was the ad, right?
I like that they purposely have these cut off medical gowns so you could see his guns. and
Yeah.
he's like flexing on purpose. He's like, "Oh, I'm in, I'm in a cutoff, so I'm gonna flex as much as I can."
Okay. Do you want to update on where exactly we are in the episode?
Oh yeah, it's a good idea. Audience, if you're just tuning in, if you are watching on Netflix or any other media, we're at about 22 minutes and 25 seconds, 30 seconds, 22 minutes, 30 seconds, around that, relatively there. 22 minutes, 45 seconds now.
That's enough, Doctor. I don't think so. She talks back to him. I understand you least of all. Gary told me that you've been friends since you joined the service, that you asked him aboard the first.
Fatheree! Dr. Piper, not as good as Dr.
Just Dr.
Pepper.
Pepper.
Yes. Kelso was the proto Scotty, 100%. Hey, can Father, do you want to come and watch? Can you want to sync up and watch with us?
I can send him a link.
That's awesome.
He can choose to join if he wants.
Father, he reads very fast. He reads microfish very fast, which
Kelso was the proto Scotty, yeah.
I agree with that. And there's Scotty. It's funny that James Doohan and George Takei are both in this episode's not as their characters. But they never say their names, so it's actually they could be Scotty and Sulu, and a year later they're in their positions.
She saw some such indications.
Oh, let's pull
In
up
love with him, don't you see?
the timeline thing and see if we can see where it's at on the timeline.
She begins to worship him, right? She's like, I love him. He's a god.
He's going to turn me into a god too.
Respect him out there.
What's this voice we're doing? This terrible girl voice.
No, I was doing the Queen of England, actually. I say.
We are not amused, Mr. Kirk. We understand you the least. Get off my phone.
One of Sulu's very few lines in the episode. I love how Leonard Nimoy says, can't. We can't. We can't. And Spock knows right off the bat, like, we got to get rid of this guy. And we find out he was actually thinking the whole time, we got to kill him. We actually have to kill him.
It's true. I just look at this set. Like, it doesn't even feel like this later on, like that ceiling. And can we say how true Star Trek Discovery is to this? Because there's that conference room that they're in. They're in with the Admiral in the episode that Captain Lorca gets kidnapped on, and it has a similar shaped rooftop to the conference room. And those kind of pylons that are evenly spaced and stuff. It looks almost like this, actually, which is pretty cool now that I think about it. Good job, Discovery. We have to count how many good job discoveries we do too as we watch this.
You mean Strand Mitchell? I won't do it, he says.
If he had just stranded him there, he would have gotten super powerful anyways and gotten them anyways. They had to kill him. There was no other choice.
Spock's like, killed Mitchell while you still can. That's intense. That's drama, man. Some serious stuff.
And Leonard Nimoy's not yelling here. He's like doing his thing, which is you're starting to see what's so great about their relationships throughout the series is this kind of back and forth. This like
this is the first real argument
or disclosure. Yeah, you're right. Argument, I would say, or discussion, casual and informal discussion.
No, not us. I mean them. This is the first argument.
No, that's what I meant them too. I was just making jokes. But Leonard Nimoy, this is great. The way they filmed it, like everything, it's just like, look at this. Like they do this close-up shot of him worried. He's so good. Shatner's a great actor. I'm just saying it.
13.1.
At least he was. He still is.
So they're going to the planet to drop him off. He's gonna con him.
Look how good that is. Is that remastered?
Yeah, that's
it's probably remastered. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's fully remastered.
Nice. They're 15-year friends. That's sad. I would maroon you,
I
truck on
like.
the tube, if
I
you
like
if you had powers to.
this scene right here is my favorite scene in the whole this here and him, the exchange between him and Kirk. It's like pretty good.
Look at him. Look at
Pretty,
that water faucet. By the way, audience, we are at 2731, 2734, 2737, relatively speaking.
it's like a man who has been blind all of his life suddenly being given sight.
You didn't do it. It's like a man who's been blind.
Okay, I'll read it in a funny voice.
Oh,
Not
I
all of
love
it.
that. How did they do that? Was that with strings?
Yeah,
It had to have been. Okay,
little
good.
tiny strings you can't really see, but if you look really close.
I'll be Jim. Are you reading all our thoughts, Gary?
I can sense manly wire in you, Jim. Safety of your ship.
What would you do in my place?
Probably just what Mr. Spock is thinking now. Kid me while you can. No, I can't do that. That's another one.
Clarice. Kill me while you can, Clarice. I feel like ooh. They had to like imagine they were being lightning bolted. CG stuff was like new back then. Like it's so crazy.
Oh. Yeah,
Yes.
those are special.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Those are special contact lenses. They were hard contacts and they were extremely difficult to wear back then. They weren't as soft as the ones they later used in like the 80s and 90s. Now it's all just CG.
2806. No, sorry, 2906, guys.
Doug Jones wears contacts as well. They still do, but they're a lot more. They're a lot more attentive to moisturizing the eyes and whatnot.
That was that familiar transporter combination. Fatheree! This is becoming a tradition, PJ. It's awesome.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, are you lined up relatively on the video too? On
I'm not, but I'll pull it up on one of my various streaming services. This is like on Hulu, CBS All Access, and Netflix.
Everywhere. There's the chance
and I have the Blu-ray.
And then too. Oh, you do have the Blu-ray. That's the best way to watch it. They just be
I have that 50th anniversary box set that Trek on the Tube has.
Oh, that same one. We're at 30 minutes roughly, and then I'll fine-tune you when you get there.
Nobody but us chickens, Doctor.
I love that you said that.
I love this episode. This is one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek, and it's hard for me to pinpoint why.
It has a great production value. It's like it's up there with the Cage like that, but it's a completely different thing. It's its own.
This set almost looks exactly like a TNG set where they went down to a starbase. Similar panels and everything. I wonder if they like just pulled those old sets out of like if there was stuff that you ever saved, like if they did save the panels and stuff like that and reuse them on TNG.
I like how they do the brig here, and I know it's a remastered effect, but when he pushes up against it, it's a really cool effect. Dr. Piper, the guy who preceded McCoy.
Or Dr.
One
Piper.
of two doctors that preceded him.
The sheriff from the Rifleman.
I think he was on Twilight Zone at some point. Just because almost every actor in Star Trek appeared on Twilight Zone also.
Yeah, he was.
Remember those rodent things? Poison darts they threw? I took one.
Like even in the Cage, there's like a couple people in the Cage that show up in Twilight Zone.
Oh wow. It was a smaller universe. Myth Dustards, to answer your question, I think you mean Galaxy. because the universe, I don't think we've ever left the universe.
They also go outside the galaxy. They also go outside the galaxy in Next Generation.
Right, outside the galaxy.
Yeah. There's the effect.
There's the effect. It is very cool. Spock's ready. Oh, and then he loses his powers for a second, and Spock's like, "We should kill him now."
Look at his eyes; they've changed. His eyes went back to normal, man. Fighting the force field drained his strength.
This is really sad because he says Jim in a way that makes me feel like he's actually been.
Yeah, he's like Reagan inside the demon. Help me.
The brig has a bed in it. It's like a really comfy bed too. It's not
They
like
don't-
the
They don't
slab.
do a lot with contact lenses after this, do they? Because it's probably a really irritating thing to deal with.
I do think their eyes turn completely black at some point or something happens. There's another time where we see contacts, I think. But you're right, it must have been a pain at the time. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I don't know.
Fits like a glove, Captain. Look at that. Oh my god.
Spock's like, Kirk's like, I didn't order any phaser rifles. Spock's like, walks in holding it, like, yep, you're right, you didn't, but you're gonna need it. Dr. Dana feels it isn't that dangerous. This is a great thing.
Spock only sees one option. He needs to go. He needs to die. Oh, I think we lost Fatheree.
We lost Fatheree.
Father, where'd you go? Voyager, the most they did was go into a different kind of space with fluidic space in Scorpion Part 2. That's correct. I like the matte painting here. I don't think they did a lot to change that in the remaster.
That stardate must be totally baffling to people. 1313.3. Do you think they're like faithful after this? Fatheree.
Oh, my internet was freaking out. Hey, what's the timestamp?
All right, we're at 3503, 3504, 3505, 3511, 35. I think you caught up.
It's better to download it on your phone or iPad or something, and because if I had done that, my internet would be really buggy right now too.
Oh, look, he's like making the wires. Oh, this is Kelso's death scene.
This is horrifying. If you're watching this as a little kid.
Yeah,
I remember watching this thinking like, oh, Kelso is pretty cool. I want to be like Kelso.
I know, and then they kill him. I think we're relatively aligned if you're seeing it. And then they just show Gary Mitchell like, oh, I just killed Kelso. 3601. Now he calls him James instead of Jim. And now he's an echo in his voice, so he's ascended to
No.
He just like waves away the This is actually really good stuff. I love it.
So creepy. I know it's like it's old school, but it's just like
no, but I think it's meant to be creepy by this point. Like it's
it did it.
Yeah, like it's
This is a cool shot here. I love this shot.
Yeah, it's a really good shot. And
that's kind of scary. It's creepy. They didn't do a lot of things with the eyes on the aliens, even in TNG.
Can you imagine how crazy it was that all those cuts were to commercials? Like whenever it gets like crazy like that, like, and then you had to wait like however long a commercial was to get back to this.
No.
Do you think this character reminds you of Q and Khan warped into one character? Yeah, kind of. There's qualities of both.
Oh,
Like a
you
little
mean
bit.
Gary Mitchell?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like he's got Q and Khan qualities.
Quan.
Khan.
Okay, that was terrible. Quan with a Q. Never. Fine, that was a bad joke.
I wonder if they. I don't know the story about why they went with Leonard McCoy.
DeForest Kelly.
Forrest Kelly, yeah.
Oh,
And
McCoy, Leonard H.
yeah,
See,
like,
right here where he calls him Mark, he calls him first name Mark. I think the intent was always for Kirk to be best friends with this doctor instead of McCoy. Yeah. But originally, Gene Roddenberry wanted DeForest Kelly to play Dr. Boyce in The Cage, but he was unavailable. So he ended up getting to be Dr. McCoy on the show. But they just did some casting changes between this second pilot and then the Carbonite maneuver when they first started shooting for a regular season after the show had been picked up.
Okay. So that's officially the third episode in chronological filming order.
In production order, yes, sir.
Yeah. That's a nice effect of I don't know how crude that looked in the original version, but they really did a great job.
Recognize the mountains back there? That's from The Cage.
Okay.
Same backdrop. It's so awesome. I never noticed that till now. That's the craziest thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're using a lot of the assets from The Cage. Like, they're also wearing those same uniforms before they make the new uniforms.
They're just if I'm not mistaken, they feel a little different here.
I love the phaser rifle too. How cool is the 23rd century phaser rifle? This is its only canonical appearance, and yet it has been so iconic.
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's been at the Guggenheim Museum in New York City on display as well. But you're right, it is beautiful. That
looks a retro futurism.
I know, I love it. We were talking about how like maybe that just became fashionable to be retro after Discovery.
But the
in design logic,
the prop guy on Discovery is a big Trek fan, and if you look at the phaser rifle that shows up in Discovery, it does borrow some influences from this one.
Yeah, and the phaser is actually very close to the.
It's close to the Cage era one.
Yeah,
and their communicators. Like, if everything that looks weird in Discovery, the props look the most quote unquote normal to Star Trek.
Yeah. Like
to this period.
Done well. Kefarian apples. I never knew that if I didn't have the subtitles on. Those apples that appeared.
Yeah.
Or maybe they say it. Like, Kirk is great. I love all this.
Yeah, see, this is why I like this more than The Cage, because of Shatner.
I know, he's so good. Look,
he has a really great speech coming up, and he's intense. And there's veins popping out of his neck, and he's sweating. And it's actually probably one of the most intense speeches he has in the entire show in terms of acting. Like, he's really selling it.
And it's stuff that was missing in The Cage. Like all the stuff with him and Spock in this episode, debating on, am I going to have to kill my friend?
Yeah.
Look how he looks so sad. Like, I love it. And confused. I forgot how handsome William Shatner was. He's still handsome, but like, at the youth, full handsomeness.
And he knows how to play Kirk right here in this first episode. Like, he doesn't really change Kirk up too much until Star Trek IV when he tries to be funnier and lighthearted. Yeah.
But Leonard Nimoy is a little bit different in this one, but
right.
Kirk, yeah.
It took Nimoy 2 or 3 episodes to figure out Spock. Shatner knew Kirk on day 1.
Here it is.
This is a great speech. Dialogue.
Yeah.
Above all else, a god needs compassion.
He's still saying that all the way into Star Trek V. Nothing's changed.
The episode's about absolute power corrupting absolutely, and he literally says it right now in a couple of minutes or in a minute. Watch your prognosis, doctor. I love that line.
It's so good.
This is like a totally different energy than what Jeffrey Hunter was doing in the cage.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing you can say is like, look at how he's hugging. I love that. Look at how he's, and that's the same effect as the phaser cannon from the cage, and they just turned it smaller.
Yeah.
Pretty cool too. Oh. Pump, pump. The music is so good. I've been listening while I work now. I listen to the volume. You know how they have like, I think it's like 15 volumes from the original series soundtracks. I've been listening to those, and it's just so good to work to.
That was a good line. I'm contemplating the death of an old friend. Very well written.
This one was written by Samuel Peebles, right?
Yeah. I checked that before. It was like, I thought
what was the date on? I couldn't tell what
the
date. The date is, I think it was a star date instead of an actual date. I think it said 1313.7, and we were in 13.13.3 like when a few minutes ago on the star date. Stop it, Gary. Samuel Peebles did write this, and it was directed by James Goldstone.
A god, but still driven by human frailty. If you like what you see, I'll have that one. He goes, "Time to pray, Captain. Pray to me."
And this is also the beginning of Gene Roddenberry wanting to tell stories of man versus God in Star Trek.
Yeah.
They get a lot of mileage out of that one.
Oh, this is good. Oh, look at that. Classic Shatner.
So good, though.
Oh,
he does look like
oh.
He looks like he's being forced. I love it. It's like yes, he does seem different.
There's the
He
line.
goes back to this a little bit in Star Trek 3 when he's like, Klingon bastards killed my son. Oh, here she goes.
Here's the Harry Potter battle.
The effects are still effective. They may be out, like, it's not like you could do some crazier shit today, but they're still effective in conveying the emotions.
It's somehow more realistic this way because it's not fancied up with a lot of
subtle. It's not showy.
Yeah. Oh, his eyes are back to normal. Get him. This is a good fight.
The thing about doing these live watches is you guys might see me get emotional. I love this.
In terms of staging and stunt performance, and it's a mix of the real guys and stunt guys, but it's very well edited and put together.
It's true. You're absolutely right. And that was a good 1, 2, 3.
It puts him in the grave that was intended for him.
What's the book that I've seen online that is it Dayton Ward who made it? The fighting.
Oh, like the Kirk Fu book.
Yeah, Kirk Fu.
I think that was Dayton Ward.
This is totally like.
Oh, you can't hesitate like that.
But that's dark, man. He was gonna bash his brains in.
What else could he do?
That's serious stuff. And I like how the rock just goes flying, like
yeah,
like really.
They really convey the power. Yeah, you're right. First time we see Kirk's shirt. This is the first audience.
Shirt ripping.
Shirt ripping.
Which it looks like Commander Ransom will continue that tradition in Lower Decks.
Yes, it's true. Dang. They're both in.
I'm gonna blast your ass.
Buried.
Oh,
Ooh, it's perfectly shaped to like fall so that it had like a slab feature.
That's
Like
how precise he is. He's shot it at just the right spot to do that. He's the ultimate chess player. He planned that move out.
It's legit. It's legit a slab that like fits perfectly over the hole that Gary Mitchell created. Oh, this is
do you
sad.
see a lot of blood on him in later episodes? Because I don't remember
Yeah,
actual like blood on the face and
you get a lot of bleeding
there,
out too.
but
He takes a punch and he bleeds a lot.
do you think this could have been better as a two-parter pilot? That way we know the crew more before Gary transformation. No, I think it worked the way it is.
Yeah. I like it being like a punchy little 50-minute story. Get in, get out. Very lean.
There's the communicator from the cage, the same prop. It changes later.
He really looks like he's been through an ordeal right there.
Yeah. And see, I love the way that Shatner plays that. Like
he's out of breath, and then he's like, "Oh, damn!"
Look at that nice flyby of the Enterprise. That was pretty cool. And see, those go away too. Those are the cage.
Are they 13.8 now?
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Daner is dead.
Spock in gold.
That's a very lucky or unlucky number based on how you think. 13 and 13. I think it's lucky.
I like how he says, Lieutenant Gary Mitchell, stay notation. I'm not recording another. I'm not recording another thing for him. I felt for him too.
Yeah, it's so nice. This is like the first Kirk's. Now,
I believe there's some hope for you all. That's a McCoy line right there, but it was given to Kirk at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anybody could have said it.
Yeah, I love it. That was the first everything. This is so now I can just.
And now the episode is over.
Now I can compare the two, and I just have to say that this is leagues ahead, leagues better for me. Oh, I love this way more as a pilot.
Yeah, I like the cage, but I definitely prefer this one more, and I see why the network was more satisfied with this. We actually compared them on a very early episode of the Tex-Trek podcast, like Tex-Trek number 3, I think, was a comparison of these two.
Check it out. That's awesome.
Kirk seemed like a puppet toward the end, like getting thrown around like a puppet. Is that I think what you mean?
But also when he was being controlled, like I love that. This thing that he did, like, I'm gonna fight you.
Yeah, so I still like the cage more. Just a little bit more. I like the seriousness of the cage, and I do like this one too. I like actually the cage and this are the two what I think are like the top 10 episodes of the whole series. So.
I mean, I do like both of them. Just the things that I like in this one that are not in the cage is the character-centric stuff, like the setting up the Kirk-Spock dynamic. That is so key to what made that show work and what made it so popular was people enjoyed tuning in every week to see like Kirk and Spock, and the energy between the two of them, the chemistry between the two of them. And a lot of people say, the cage was too cerebral, but this story is kind of just as cerebral. They're still dealing with like these big concepts. The thing that this one adds though is a little bit of it has more energy, and you do get the action beats are in here, but it's still dealing with like a big sci-fi cerebral concept that audiences were not used to back in the 1960s.
Yeah. When I was a little kid and found like a lot of TOS episodes kind of boring, this was one of the ones that kind of caught my interest for like very like simple little reasons, and one of them was the silver contacts, which you didn't really see a lot in older movies and stuff. You saw it, I think, in the sequel to Planet of the Apes or something like that, or in the Omega Man with Charlton Heston. They had like weird, freaky contacts, but you didn't see a lot of that back then. And the fact that there was like telekinesis, special effects, and stuff like that, that really appealed to me. Like the cup and like the electrocuting them, and he was an actual like scary, intimidating villain that could like
Yeah, he was really pretty.
It was a good performance.
Yeah,
there's also like a race, like it's just, you're right about the energy, like the whole idea that they have limited amount of chances to like either save Gary from his transformation or like to kill him like Spock suggests, and it's like all that's building, that tension's building throughout the episode. And then there's also just like from the start it was a lot more tense, I feel like, when they did when they went to Red Alert and they had those, and it was more dynamic, you saw more of the ship, whereas I think that was the cool thing too, is that you saw more of the ship's functions. PJ and I were talking about how like you hear all the reports coming in to the bridge at one point after the Great Barrier scene.
There's like
when they're
overlapping voices, which like they didn't really do after that, like the overlapping voices of the reports coming in, and the way Kirk when he alerted the ship, you hear the echo, and they did that in Nemesis, and I don't really think they did it anywhere else. But
so when he's doing a ship-wide communication,
yeah,
you hear his echo coming through the ship, like as if it's reverberating through the hull or something like that. And they do that again in Nemesis, apparently.
I like the passing more and character development in Where No Man Has Gone Before versus The Cage. Yeah, I would agree with that. You don't really get to know the characters in The Cage as much. Like that argument, like you pointed out, Father, between Kirk and Spock about killing Mitchell. And that's like the first argument you ever see between them. That sets the tone for the rest of the series. And the only thing missing there was McCoy with his sarcastic remarks, right?
Yeah, and I like The Cage. Don't get me wrong. But I cannot imagine the show being as successful if those moments were done between Jeffrey Hunter's Pike and Majel Barrett's number 1. That Kirk Spock energy was just lightning in a bottle. And I'm so glad that they found it, because we got this entire franchise based on that as the foundation.
We've been debating like the canon. Sean and I have been debating the canonicity of the Cage, and like I think I'm a little extreme when I'm like, oh, it's not canon. What I mean is like, yeah, okay, the Cage exists as like it is a part of the whole work that makes Star Trek. So in that sense, like, yeah, it's part of the canon, right? But what it isn't is the start to the show. Like it was the canceled pilot. Like it wasn't meant to be. That's what I talk about. Like it wasn't, we talk about it like it's a deleted scene or whatever. It wasn't meant to be, it wasn't intentionally meant to be part of the canon. But now with Strange New Worlds, you could just say that the Cage is the pilot for Strange New Worlds. Now Rebecca Romijn and Anson Mount have a chance to flesh out that number 1 Pike relationship in the way that like was probably intended originally. So we'll get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Assuming that this pandemic gets under control and Hollywood is allowed to shoot new shows again. I'm starting to wonder, like, are we ever going to get new content made? Or is this just it forever?
I think what you could do, you could definitely do something where you isolate people in pods, and like, who knows, you could figure it out. Like, I'm sure it'll be figured out, but the pandemic will be over soon. Let's hope.
We were kind of talking about earlier about how this second pilot has like explosions, actions, a scary villain. It has melodrama, romance,
lots of the crew,
a rift between 2 longtime friends. It has all of the kind of ingredients for a good pilot. But on top of that, the actors like William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and just William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. I mean, you see Sulu there and you see James Doohan there, but they're just like background characters. They're like nothing at this point. But yeah, the dynamic between them two is definitely there from the start. And I can see how the executives back then looked at this and said, okay, this makes more sense.
Yeah, this is like a show.
A broadly appealing property. Yeah. So any final thoughts on this episode, guys?
Actually, I wanted to visit. I'm really keen on like since we're at the beginning, so to speak. I'm really keen on kind of tracking the timeline, if you will. So I was going to pull up the article on Memory Alpha real quick just to see. So it says that
20 to 65.
65. Yeah, this is 65.
5. All right, I'm gonna pull up that map and share my screen that Sean and Gary did, and we can kind of look, if you guys don't mind indulging me on this one. All right, here we go. All right, do you see it there? All right, cool. So you said 2265. So oops, I'm drawing things that I shouldn't be. Hold on. All right, cancel. All right, what we want is this. There we go. All right. So it takes place right here. So at the beginning, they have a dot for that year. So they took that into account. Nice. So Strange New Worlds is even going to be a prequel to TOS.
No.
Which
obviously, no.
This is wrong.
Oh, I didn't see this updated one. I mean I did, but I didn't know Strange New Worlds was before TOS. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it would have to be. What am I thinking? I was thinking before Discovery, but yeah, anyway.
Discovery originally, I think they intended it to go and fill in this area, but now that the Discovery left, I think that's what Strange New Worlds will do, and it'll do a much better job. No offense to Star Trek Discovery, but like it makes more sense that the handoff occurs from Pike to Kirk than from like Michael Burnham to Kirk.
I really hope Strange New Worlds is actually a prequel to Discovery itself. I'm pretty sure it's not, but you know what I mean? Like, I want them to go.
No, I think I think Pike's just finished his mission from the Discovery, and he's back on his ship, and it's going to take place right after Discovery Season 2 ends, basically, where Spock is back on the bridge, dressed in his uniform. Like,
if you watch that the last 10 minutes of Disco Season 2, it's basically like, by Discovery. Well, I guess we're having a Pike show now on the Enterprise.
Right?
Can you move over to past TAS to the movies? $22.73. Okay. I like how the motion picture takes place. I mean, Wrath of Khan takes place 8 years after.
Yeah, it makes sense too, kind of. I think.
Yeah, the motion picture they talk a lot in there how like, oh, Kirk has been off the Enterprise for 2.5 years, even though it was like it came out 10 years after the original series had gone off the air, so everyone looks 10 years older, but they're only supposed to be like 3 years older. But then with the Wrath of Khan, they kind of correct that gap.
And that's a good thing, too.
I see what you're saying.
They didn't age well between the motion picture and Wrath of Khan, even though it was a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look at the motion picture, like George Takei and like Leonard Nimoy, they still look a lot alike their original series selves. And like Nichelle Nichols looks the same, except she has like 70s hair, this bigger hair than she had in the 60s. Shatner and James Doohan were the ones that kind of aged the worst. Like they both, like, after they stopped working on the original series, they both like put on some weight. But then you go from like the motion picture to Wrath of Khan, and like when they really start getting older.
I want to give a quick kudos to Gary who designed this, and Sean probably had something to say about this too. But look, there's like appropriate gaps between the, like, you know how like
it's like the scale.
Yeah, it's the scale. So like that's like an 8-year gap. That's like hardly a gap at all, and then there's another gap here.
Well, it's a pretty big gap between TAS and the motion picture, but
never mind. Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
But it's like visually, it kind of evokes that there's a separation, which is nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we have so much to go through. TOS. Why is and then the animated series right here? It's crazy.
But anybody who wants to check out Tex-Trek's video talking to Aaron Harvey about the animated series,
it's today. It came out.
Yeah.
No. Yes.
Yes.
And
it's a good listen.
Also, Rich Shepus, both authors of Star Trek: The Official Guide to the Animated Series.
Oh, nice.
I should highlight Fatheree.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, come on. There we go.
Hold up that book again, please. Oh, cool.
It's a beautiful look at it. Wow.
Yeah, well, Aaron is a graphic designer, and he got to lay out the book how he wanted. So it is really nice looking on the inside.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, there's a lot of great artwork.
I was gonna wait to order that book, and now I'm gonna just order it today.
I definitely recommend it. If you like the animated series, I consider it essential reading. They get interviews from a lot of the people who worked on that show, who just the show is so overlooked for so many years. A lot of them have never like told their story. But you have one of the artists on the show, Robert Klein. He was the first person to design a Starfleet ship other than the Constitution class. He did it for the animated series. Dorothy Fontana, who wrote some of the most essential Star Trek episodes ever in the original series, was basically the showrunner. They didn't have that term back then, but she was the showrunner of the animated series.
She wrote Yesteryear. Which is one of the best ones. Yeah, I just recently rewatched the animated series, and I was surprised at how it doesn't talk down to the audience. It's thought provoking. It is very crude and kind of slow, but it's not slow in a way like the original series was to me in some ways, because it had that 22-minute format. So the episodes kind of like went by a little quicker, and I like
no filler,
a lot of non-humanoid aliens, right?
I'm really surprised that I've noticed there's a sentiment that like a lot of people don't take animation seriously anymore. I think there's probably so many comedies that are animated that's probably why. But there was a time, like I remember, where animation could be like an alternative, like a low budget alternative, like those Lord of the Rings animations from like the 70s. People took those seriously, and they're very well made and have like great performances. And I do think that like Lower Decks obviously is intended to be funny, which I love. But what I'm saying is like, it's always surprising to me that people say, "Oh, it's a cartoon, it's going to be stupid" or whatever. Like it's not necessarily the case.
Lower Decks are for kids.
Lower Decks is the perfect opportunity now to bring back all the cat-like species you saw in TAS.
There are a lot of them,
and like reptile, like different reptiles and stuff. What's that bird species that you never see in live action?
Oh, well, there is actually two different species. The one in Yesteryear and then the one in the Jihad are two different species. The one in the Jihad is called the Score, and the one in Yesteryear I can't remember the name of, but they look almost like they're both like a big yellow bird.
It would be cool
very nice.
Because they can't really do a lot of that stuff in live action, so Lower Decks would be the perfect opportunity to bring that all back.
The plant people from Infinite.
Oh, the Philosians, right? Is that them? No,
Philosians, I think. I don't know. Or
the Philosians or something like that. Yeah.
Eric's species, the 3-armed navigator, the Endosians. They could bring them back. I want even like Trek aliens that are just hard to do in live action because they're expensive, like the Gorn or the Tholians. There's a lot that I would love to see in Lower Decks because it's going to be easier, and to be honest, we're more likely to get it there than we are in Strange New World, Card, or anything else. Yeah.
Although I think Doug Jones could pull off that character pretty easily.
Yeah.
Is today the anniversary of? Yes, it is actually. What's today? Let's take a look. Today in history.
We're gonna see more Linus, the Saurian, in
Neil Armstrong walks on the moon today, guys. What a cool day to be doing this podcast.
Has anybody been watching the virtual cons that?
Yes.
On Seventh Rule.
I haven't watched them.
I watched a few
them after.
Yeah, I was busy over the weekend, so I couldn't keep up.
There's a few with Ira Stephen Beer and who's that guy that Sean interviewed? Oh God, I can't remember. But anyway,
Robert Wolf.
Robert Hewitt Wolf.
Yes. Him. They have great conversations about like Berman flipping out and stuff, and like talking about Dominion War and like how like they wanted to do it way sooner, and there's a lot of details, man. Like I just love listening to those guys, and Ira Stephen Beer's in a couple of different ones, but I have yet to watch the rest of them. And that's what I've been doing for the past 2 days, just watching these live streams. They're awesome.
I need to check that out. Yeah, I listened to a lot of them last week while I was working, Thursday and Friday.
All
right, guys. Anybody have any final thoughts on this episode?
I haven't watched I haven't watched the original series in earnest in probably 20 years, and it's so freaking exciting. I have to it's just like with this intention, like watching them in order, like really paying attention, like really just like kind of like refreshing my idea of what's in my head. And
episodes.
yeah, there's some episodes I'm sure I've forgotten. I'm really excited about this journey and doing these live watches, like just doing this, like this is like such a wonderful thing. So I'm really glad you're willing to do it, and I look forward to the next one. So yeah, and I'll give a preview for my rating on Starfleet Boy. It's gonna be a 10. This episode was a knockout for me. I loved it. I loved every bit of it.
I'll give it a yes out of 10. Yeah, I think it's a really good episode. That's all I have to say about that. Fatheree's the expert.
He really is.
Stories you have, any behind the scenes tidbits you have about the making of this episode or something?
I've watched every episode of the original series twice within the last 4 years.
That's right.
Because I'm always rewatching Star Trek.
I wanna rewatch the original series again, but I just rewatched the animated series and I finished Enterprise. I was watching that concurrently, and now that's over with. And that ended so badly. I forgot how bad the end of that show was.
Yeah,
it's really good. It gets really good. Season 3 and 4.
It's so good. I loved that 4th season, and then at the very end, in the last episode, Rick Berman and Brandon Braga had to come back and write an episode to remind you, like, oh no, this is Enterprise, the worst Star Trek show.
Yeah. Wow.
Sorry to all the.
I'm only laughing because I used to say I don't think it's the worst anymore. But yeah.
Who's the worst?
I hate what they did with her after she got that disease from being a drug addict or something, or maybe there was something wrong with her where she was feeling no, it was her drug use or her addiction to something, and it affected her in a way where she couldn't contain her emotions as effectively. So for the rest of the series, she kind of does this weird acting that annoyed me. So I liked T'Pol in the earlier seasons, but I liked the show itself in the later seasons.
But I think they fixed her in season 4 when Manny Koto was like, "Oh, I know how to write the Trip T'Pol stuff," and he he fleshed out.
I was gonna say I can't say what's the worst anymore because I have to finish watching Enterprise. I hated it so much when it came out that I never finished watching it. So I don't know. It might still be the worst. We'll see.
That was the only time in my life where I felt like maybe I should stop watching Star Trek. Well, I remember exactly when it was. It was in Enterprise season 2, and it was an episode with Trip and the Lizard Man stranded on that planet together, and it just felt so completely void of anything original, like the most derivative numbers Star Trek script. I've seen this story 1,000 times, and I was just like, "What? Why am I bothering watching this?" Like,
that's funny. Yeah, it's a tough time.
Kind of story, but like do it like Darmok and not like
or any other time Star Trek did it when it was way better, like when Quark and Odo are stuck on that planet, or Geordi and the Romulan. I mean, like, come on, y'all. It's like,
that was a good one, Geordi and the Romulans.
If you're going to revisit the same story you've done before, then do something different or do something to make it the better version of it. Don't just do like a shitty version of something you've already done. But I love Enterprise season 4, so don't at me. I think that show has some remarkable episodes in it. But yeah, I like every other Star Trek show at least a little bit more than I like Enterprise.
I just wanted to show that image because they point out today is the moon landing, so that's a good image.
And America did it. America did it first.
America.
Yes.
Oh my God, how far we've fallen.
The country that lost every other single aspect of the space race, but the one that we did beat the Russians on was putting someone on the moon. And so it's like if you lose every game of the season, and then like you win like the last game of the season, and then be like, yeah, we're the champions.
In that situation, we have to give it to America, but no one's done it since, right? We haven't gone unless there's a secret moon base that we don't know about, and that's why no one's gone back to the moon.
We would say with telescopes if there is a secret base.
Does it rotate like the dark side of the moon? Is the moon
on the dark
is
side.
it locked, right? Yeah.
Well, no, because like, didn't the Japanese send a satellite to like go
To the other side,
photograph
they
the
did.
backside? Yeah, so they
You're
would have
right.
picked it up unless
But
they're
if
in
it's
on it.
their, I know, I was gonna say if it's their base, they're like, we volunteer to send the probe to scan for bases, and everyone's like, yeah, great. It's too much money for everyone else to do. Good, they fell for it.
But one of the things we're going to do is build assuming that we're able to continue the plans, we're going to build a base in orbit of the moon that we can launch ships to Mars from
Yes.
a moon station.
The Brad Pitt movie does something similar to that. What's it called? Forgot what
Ad
it is,
Astra?
but I like that
Ad
movie. Ad Astra, yeah.
I liked it
They go to
too.
the moon first. They go to the moon first before they go to Mars. Spoilers.
Oh, thanks. You ruined it for me. Yeah, so it's an exciting time to be a Trek fan. I just hope Lower Decks doesn't suck.
PJ, I hope you like Lower Decks more than you liked Picard.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I actually, Picard is a show I dislike more and more just thinking about it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Oh my god. I will
Let's not get
hold my tongue. We're on your channel, so I'll just
I
stay
keep saying
quiet.
I'm going to shut up about Picard. I don't like being negative about.
It's not that you just don't
That's why I
like
don't
it.
do.
Come
I
on.
stopped doing reviews halfway through the seasons. I'm like, that's not as good as I thought it was going to be. I don't want to do this.
Was
But
I
like,
heavy? Was I ham-fisted? Was I too much with my Picard love? Did I ever bully? I don't think I tried not to bully anyone.
I think next season they should do a TNG reunion and kill all the cast from the first season.
Oh, jeez.
Interesting. I actually I was disappointed in the way that the Picard season ended, but then when I rewatched the entire season, when I was seeing the early episodes, I was like, "Oh, I actually really liked this," and now I remember why.
Yeah.
But kind of like with Discovery season 2, I was so excited at the beginning when Pike came onto the ship, but then at the end, I felt like they kind of dropped the ball with all their Red Angel storyline and all the revelations to everything, and it felt a little half baked. And I was like, man, what I really want is either Picard or Discovery or one of these shows that just have a good solid storyline all the way through the season and not drop the ball at the end, because it's Disco season 2 and Picard season 1 both kind of just left me a little cold the way that they ended. I think they kind of did not stick the landing.
I haven't started seeing it. I haven't started really seeing the imperfections in Picard, but definitely Discovery season 2 has a lot of holes that I'm kind of oh, come on guys, could you what I will say, I don't know why it's not like this. I mean, because it's streaming media and it's not a big deal. I always say, they could just update it and make it better. Take that scene you cut out and put it back in if it's going to make it a better episode, because the next person who watches it is going to experience a better show. Why not just do it,
Do you think we're going to get an announcement on Discovery season 3 on Thursday?
I think we'll probably get a trailer. I think they're gonna surprise everyone with here's a surprise trailer.
You know what would really surprise me in a trailer if they show it, or even in the show if they show it, is a Klingon. I would really surprise. I mean, they're showing Cardassians. Who knows? But if they actually show a traditional looking Klingon, and I just one thing before we go, me and Starfleet Boy were inebriated the other night talking about how Strange New Worlds could possibly solve the Klingon problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I pointed out, and I've talked about this before, the Klingons from Part 6 and how subtle their makeup is, especially Christopher Plummer. You could just show those Klingons and say, okay, these are the ones that were affected from Phlox's cure to the augment virus. There you go.
I would love if
you
they
don't
did something
have
like
somebody
that.
in blackface. You just put subtle ridges. That's all you do. Does that sound good?
I mean,
it does sound good.
If I was doing Strange New Worlds, I would actually put something in the story of L'Rell gets overthrown by a lot of the smooth heads that were affected by the Enterprise virus, and it's they're going to be running the military for the next few years.
Yeah, that could totally. Yeah, it would make sense to bridge the gap. But I
There's so
actually,
many ways they could do it. It's true.
I'm really in need at its point of some Klingon stuff that's actually good, like DS9 style Klingon stuff.
Yeah,
One of the most refreshing things about Picard was that we didn't see a. I hate to say it, but I'm like a little tired of Klingons. I'm ready to let's go to something new. Even like it'd be nice. I don't know.
You were tired of
focused on so much that people are now kind of like, let's back off. No one really liked what we did, so we should just back off for a little bit.
All right, well, we'll leave it there on that note, guys. And I want to thank you both for joining me and watching this wonderful episode. And this is a precursor to Starfleet Boy's review on Saturday.
Yes, you're helping me with my homework. Yes, it's so good.
So this is your homework right here.
Yeah, thank you. This was a lot of fun. Thank you. I hope we do more.
And just one last comment from. I hope Picard does more single episodes. I need time to develop characters before having a huge arc. White Collar and Suits did character arcs better than these plot arcs. I don't know. White Collar and Suits?
Is that a show?
I'm not familiar with that show. I'm sorry.
I don't know either. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, so anyway.
Suits I might have heard of, but.
And until next time, live long and prosper.